Captain Sarah pressed her face against the reinforced glass of the observation deck, watching the swirling golden clouds below. The atmosphere of Prime shimmered like liquid metal, hiding secrets that had puzzled humanity for 3 years since first contact with the Celestial Kingdom. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the surface," Lieutenant called from the communications station. "Same as before, they want to negotiate trade agreements, but they refuse to let any humans land." Sarah turned away from the mesmerizing view. The United Earth Fleet had sent 12 different diplomatic missions to this system, each one more frustrated than the last. The beings calling themselves the Aurelian Empire controlled 17 worlds, all rich in rare metals and energy sources that could solve Earth's resource crisis. Yet they insisted on conducting all business through automated drones and holographic projections. "What's different about us that scares them so much?" Sarah wondered aloud, walking back to her command chair. The bridge of the UES horizon buzzed with quiet activity as her crew monitored the alien vessels maintaining their distance. Doctor, the expeditions, looked up from his console. Based on their transmissions, they seem to view us as some kind of dangerous anomaly. They keep referring to humans as the walking chaos and children of the void storm. Sarah frowned. Humanity had encountered 17 different alien species since developing faster-than-light travel, and while not all meetings had been friendly, none had reacted with this mixture of fascination and terror. The Aurelians possessed technology centuries ahead of Earth's. Their ships moved like liquid light through space, and their cities floated among the clouds of gas giants like impossible dreams. Yet they treated humans like unpredictable wild animals. "Captain," Commander Hayes, her first officer, approached with a data pad. "I've been analyzing their ship movements. They maintain exactly 50,000 kilometers distance from us at all times. When we move, they adjust their position within minutes. It's not defensive positioning, it's like they're studying us from what they consider a safe range." The main screen flickered to life, showing an ethereal figure draped in flowing robes that seemed to be made of golden light itself. The Aurelian ambassador's features were elegant and elongated, with eyes that held the depth of ancient stars. When it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that made the air itself sing. "Greetings, travelers from the third world of the Yellow Star," the ambassador said in perfect English, though the words seemed to float rather than be spoken. "I am of the 73rd Ascending House. Your species continues to perplex our greatest scholars." Sarah stood and smoothed her uniform. After weeks of these conversations, she still felt like she was missing something crucial. "We're honored by your attention. However, we still don't understand why you won't allow face-to-face meetings. Humanity comes in peace, seeking mutual benefit through trade and cultural exchange." The Aurelian's expression shifted, showing something that might have been amusement mixed with concern. "Captain, your species radiates possibility. When our seers attempt to divine your future, they see not one path but thousands branching in all directions. Most races follow predictable patterns. They grow, they stabilize, they eventually decline. But humans," the figure paused, its form flickering slightly. "Humans are walking quantum storms. Where you go, reality itself seems to bend." Doctor leaned forward with interest. "Are you saying we affect probability somehow?" "More than that," replied. "Your species embodies change itself. In our 3,000 years of recorded history, we have seen empires rise and fall according to natural law. Civilizations follow cycles as predictable as planetary orbits. Yet every projection involving humanity shows chaos, not destructive chaos, but creative chaos. You make the impossible happen simply by existing." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Is that why you fear us?" This form becoming more defined as if the question had focused its attention. "We do not fear you, Captain. We fear what you represent. Your species arrived in this galaxy 500 years ago according to our records, yet you achieved faster-than-light travel in mere decades. Most races require to make such leaps. You went from primitive agriculture to space travel in a span of time we consider a brief moment." Commander Hayes stepped forward. "Our development has been rapid, yes, but we've had help from other species we've encountered." "And therein lies the mystery," said, its voice taking on a musical quality that made the bridge vibrate softly. "Every species you encounter seems to advance beyond their previous capabilities after contact with humanity. The collective improved their shielding technology by 300% after hosting human engineers for 6 months. The crystalline hierarchs developed new forms of artistic expression that had been impossible for them before human poets shared their work." Sarah exchanged glances with her senior staff. They had heard similar reports but always attributed them to normal cultural exchange. Are you suggesting that humans are somehow infectious? Not infectious, the Aurelian corrected gently. Inspirational. Your species carries within it a spark of pure potential that ignites similar sparks in others. Where humans go, innovation follows. Where humans settle, the unexpected becomes commonplace. Doctor was frantically taking notes. This could explain the technological acceleration curves we've observed in our allied systems. But how is this possible? What makes humanity different? They seemed to consider the question carefully. You endured what you call an ice age, a period of extreme climate change that should have destroyed your species. Instead, it forced rapid evolution and adaptation. But more than that, it created a genetic memory of survival against impossible odds. Every human carries this legacy, the absolute refusal to accept defeat, the compulsion to find solutions where none exist. But surely other species have faced extinction events, Sarah said. Yes, but most that survive do so by becoming more specialized, more rigid, more predictable. Humans became more adaptable, more creative, more willing to try the untested. You are evolution's experiment in conscious change. The golden figure gestured, and the main screen displayed images of human colonies and settlements throughout known space. Each one looked different, adapted to local conditions in ways that seemed almost organic. Observe your settlements, Captain. No two are alike. Each one represents a unique solution to environmental challenges. Most species would build the same structures everywhere, following tried and tested patterns. Humans reinvent architecture on every world. Sarah studied the images. New Geneva's underwater cities, the orbital habitats around Station, the cliff-face metropolises of Horizon's End. Each one was a testament to human adaptability and imagination. She had always been proud of humanity's diversity, but she was beginning to understand why it might seem unsettling to a species that valued predictability. Your question from earlier, continued, about why we maintain distance from your kind. It is not fear of destruction, but fear of transformation. The Aurelian Empire has existed unchanged for 3. Our society has achieved perfect harmony through careful balance and measured progression. We have eliminated war, poverty, and suffering through precise social engineering. That sounds wonderful, Lieutenant said quietly. It is stable, the replied, though something in its tone suggested complicated feelings about that stability. Yet our scholars calculate that extended contact with humanity would introduce variables that could destabilize our entire civilization within a few generations, not through conquest or conflict, but through inspiration. Commander Hayes frowned. You're afraid we'll make your people want to change. We are afraid, admitted, that your people will make our people remember what it feels like to dream of the impossible. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Sarah realized they were looking at a civilization that had achieved everything they had wanted: peace, prosperity, technological advancement, but had paid for it by giving up the very qualities that made progress possible in the first place. What if we could find a middle ground? Sarah asked. Limited contact, careful cultural exchange protocols, gradual introduction of new ideas. The Aurelian's form brightened noticeably. This is precisely what our cautious faction has proposed. But there are those among us who believe any contact with humanity is too dangerous. They point to the Meridian incident as proof that your species cannot be safely approached. Doctor looked up sharply. What's the Meridian incident? One of your exploration vessels made contact with a peaceful species called the Meridians 18 months ago. The Meridians had achieved a stable, sustainable civilization that had remained unchanged for over 1,000 years. They lived simple lives in harmony with their environment and had no interest in technological advancement or space travel. Sarah felt a growing sense of unease. What happened to them? Within 6 months of contact with your explorers, the Meridians had developed 3 new technologies, formed their first space program, and begun questioning the fundamental assumptions of their society. Within a year, they had split into multiple factions with different visions for their future. Their 1,000-year peace ended not in war, but in the chaos of transformation. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Sarah had never heard of the Meridian incident, which meant it was probably classified at the highest levels of Earth Command. Were they harmed by this transformation? Doctor asked. That depends, replied, on whether you consider the death of one civilization and the birth of another to be harm or growth. The Meridians who chose to embrace change now lead the most rapidly advancing society in their sector. Those who chose to maintain their traditional ways have established isolated communities and refuse contact with the outside galaxy. The species that once spoke with one voice now speaks with many. Sarah began to understand the full scope of what they were dealing with. Humanity wasn't just another species seeking trade agreements. They were an agent of change so powerful that entire civilizations could be transformed by simple contact. The responsibility of that realization settled on her shoulders like a heavy weight. She said formally, "If this is true, then humanity has a responsibility to understand and control this effect. We cannot simply ignore it and hope it goes away." "No," the Aurelian agreed. "You cannot. And that is precisely why some of us believe contact with your species is not just inevitable but necessary." "I don't understand." The golden figure seemed to gather itself, becoming more solid and present. "Captain, your galaxy is not as stable as it appears. Our long-range sensors detect signs of an approaching crisis that threatens all life in this sector. A force of such magnitude that all of our careful planning and advanced technology may prove insufficient to address it." Sarah felt her blood run cold. What kind of crisis? The details would take much time to explain, but in essence reality itself is becoming less stable. The laws of physics that have governed this galaxy for billions of years are beginning to flex. Stars are behaving in impossible ways. Planets are shifting their orbits without any detectable force acting upon them. Space and time themselves seem to be developing inconsistencies. Doctor was staring at the screen in fascination and terror. "Are you saying the universe is breaking down?" "Not breaking down," corrected. "Evolving, and the only species we have ever encountered that seems capable of adapting to and perhaps even guiding such fundamental change is humanity. Your gift for making the impossible happen may be exactly what this galaxy needs to survive its transformation." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of cosmic responsibility settling around her crew. "You're asking us to help save the galaxy." "We are asking you to help the galaxy save itself," the replied. "But first, we must understand exactly what you are and how your unique nature might be harnessed without destroying everything we have built." The transmission began to fade as prepared to disconnect. "Captain, I will return in 3 of your days with a proposal from the High Council. Until then, please consider what I have told you. The universe is about to change whether we are ready or not. The question is whether we will guide that change together or face it alone." The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing her own mixture of excitement and terror reflected in their faces. They had come seeking trade agreements and had instead discovered that humanity might be evolution's answer to a cosmic crisis they didn't even know existed. "Commander Hayes," Sarah said quietly, "send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them we need to speak with the highest levels of government immediately." "What should I say the message is regarding?" Hayes asked. Sarah stared out at the golden clouds of Prime, where an ancient civilization waited to see if humanity could be trusted with the power to reshape reality itself. "Tell them it's about the future of everything." 3 days felt like 3 years as Captain Sarah waited for to return. During that time, Earth Command had sent increasingly frantic messages demanding full reports, while the crew of the Horizon worked around the clock to analyze every scrap of data they could gather about the Aurelian Empire and the cosmic crisis they had described. Doctor had barely slept, poring over astronomical readings that seemed to confirm the Aurelian claims. "Captain, look at this," he said, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "I've been cross-referencing our sensor data with reports from other human colonies. The anomalies the mentioned, they're real and they're spreading." Sarah studied the holographic display showing their sector of the galaxy. Red markers indicated locations where unusual phenomena had been reported, stars flickering in patterns that known physics, gravitational fields that shifted without explanation, and space itself seeming to ripple like water. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. "Based on the progression rate, maybe 50 years before the instabilities reach our core systems. But Captain, that's not the most interesting part." Manipulated the display, highlighting a different set of markers in blue. "These show the locations of human settlements and colonies." Sarah stared at the pattern. Without exception, the areas around human settlements showed significantly less cosmic instability than other regions. It was as if humanity's presence was somehow stabilizing reality itself. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Is it?" Commander Hayes joined them at the display. "Think about what's said, humans make the impossible happen. Maybe our effect on probability doesn't just apply to technology and social development. Maybe we actually anchor reality somehow." Before Sarah could respond, the main screen flickered to life. Appeared, but this time the golden figure was accompanied by two others. One appeared to be made of crystalline light that sang in harmonious tones, while the other seemed to be composed of living shadow that moved like liquid night. "Captain," began, "allow me to present my colleagues. Of the crystal resonance speaks for those who support immediate full contact with humanity. Of the silent depths represents those who believe such contact would be catastrophic." The crystal being stepped forward, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Captain, our analyses confirm what we have long suspected. Your species possesses an inherent ability to stabilize quantum fluctuations through conscious observation and intention. Simply put, humans make reality more real by believing it should be so." The shadow figure shifted forward, its voice a whisper that somehow carried clearly through the bridge speakers. "And that is precisely why contact must be limited. Human belief is so powerful that it overwrites natural law. Given time, your species would reshape this entire galaxy according to your collective unconscious desires, whether you intended to or not." Sarah felt overwhelmed by the implications. "Are you saying we're unconsciously controlling reality?" "Not controlling," clarified. "Influencing. Every human thought, every act of creativity, every moment of problem-solving sends ripples through the quantum substrate of spacetime. Most species think in predictable patterns that create minimal disturbance. Humans think in spirals and loops and sudden leaps that create constant micro-changes in probability fields." Its crystalline form brightened. "This is not a flaw to be feared, but a gift to be celebrated. Our universe is about to undergo a fundamental transformation. The cosmic forces involved are so vast that even our most advanced technology cannot predict or control them. We need a species that specializes in making the unpredictable work in their favor." Flowed closer to the screen. "You speak of gifts, but consider the cost. The Meridians were a peaceful species for 1,000 years. Now half of them pursue dangerous experiments with forces they do not understand, while the other half live in isolation and fear. Is this transformation truly a blessing?" Doctor looked up from his console. "May I ask a question? You say humans affect probability, but how exactly does this work? What's the mechanism?" Resonated with what might have been pleasure at the scientific inquiry. "Your consciousness operates differently from other known species. Most sapient beings observe reality and adapt their thinking to match what they perceive. Humans observe reality and immediately begin imagining how it could be different. This constant stream of alternative possibilities creates what we call probability storms, localized disturbances in the quantum field that make unlikely outcomes more likely to occur. It's why your technology develops so rapidly," added. "When a human engineer encounters a problem, they don't just look for known solutions. They imagine solutions that don't exist yet, and their belief in the possibility of those solutions actually increases the chance that they will discover or invent them." Sarah was beginning to understand. "So when we develop new technology after meeting other species, we're not just learning from them. We're making it more probable that improvements are possible." "Exactly," chimed. "And this is why we believe humanity could help guide the coming transformation. The universe is about to become far more fluid and unpredictable. Species that rely on rigid thinking and established patterns will struggle to adapt. But humans thrive in chaos and uncertainty." Shifted darkly. "And what of species like us who have achieved stability through careful order? Must we abandon everything we have built to accommodate human chaos?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Sarah realized this was the crux of the debate within the Aurelian Empire, whether to preserve their achieved perfection or risk it in hopes of surviving the cosmic changes ahead. "What if," Sarah said slowly, "we could find a way to work together that preserves what you've built while also preparing for what's coming? You have the knowledge and technology. We have the adaptability and probability influence. Surely there's a way to combine these strengths." Seem to consider this carefully. "The High Council has discussed such possibilities. We have developed what we call the Golden Path Protocol, a carefully structured plan for limited human-Aurelian cooperation that would maximize benefits while minimizing risks. Tell us about it, Sarah said. The three Aurelians exchanged what might have been meaningful looks before continued. The protocol involves establishing a joint research station in neutral space, staffed by volunteers from both species working together to understand and prepare for the coming changes. However, the human participants would need to undergo special training to help them control their probability influence. Doctor leaned forward with interest. What kind of training? Answered, meditation techniques to focus your consciousness, mental exercises to channel your imagination in productive directions, and technological augmentation to help you perceive the quantum effects of your thoughts. Essentially, we would teach willing humans to consciously direct the same abilities they currently use unconsciously. The goal, explained, would be to create a hybrid approach human adaptability guided by Aurelian wisdom and precision. Together, we might develop solutions that neither species could achieve alone. Sarah felt a surge of excitement. This was exactly the kind of challenge that humanity excelled at, the impossible made possible through cooperation and innovation. What would Earth need to commit to such a project? Volunteers, said quietly. But understand, Captain, that humans who undergo this training will be fundamentally changed by the experience. They will see reality differently, think differently, perhaps even be different. There is no returning to purely unconscious probability influence once you understand how to control it. Are you talking about evolution? Commander Hayes asked. Artificially accelerating human development. We are talking about the next step, replied. The universe is forcing evolution upon all of us. We can either guide that evolution or be controlled by it. Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. She could see the mixture of excitement and fear in their eyes, the same feelings she was experiencing. This was bigger than first contact or trade agreements. This was about the future of consciousness itself. What would happen to the volunteers? She asked. Sform grew brighter. They would become bridges between species, translators between different ways of thinking. They would develop abilities that seem miraculous by current human standards, the power to directly influence probability, to make impossibly precise predictions, to reshape matter through focused intention. They would become living gods, said darkly, and godhood corrupts even the most noble intentions. Not gods, corrected gently. Gardeners, beings capable of guiding growth without controlling it, of nurturing possibility without destroying what already exists. Sarah felt the weight of decision pressing down on her. Everything they had learned suggested that humanity was standing at a crossroads. They could continue their current path of unconscious influence and gradual development, or they could leap forward into something unprecedented. Either way, the universe was changing around them whether they were ready or not. I need to ask you something, Sarah said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. If we refuse this offer, what happens? What does the future look like if humanity and the Aurelian Empire go their separate ways? The three aliens exchanged looks before answered. Our projections suggest that both species would eventually be overwhelmed by the cosmic changes. Humanity's unconscious probability influence would grow stronger and more chaotic as the universe becomes less stable. Without guidance, you would likely destroy yourselves trying to reshape reality beyond your understanding. And the Aurelian Empire? Doctor asked. We would survive the initial changes, admitted, but our rigid social structure would eventually shatter under the pressure of constant adaptation. Within a few centuries, we would either collapse completely or be forced to abandon everything that makes us who we are. So cooperation isn't just beneficial, Sarah realized. It's necessary for survival. For optimal survival, corrected. There are other paths, but they all involve far greater suffering and loss than necessary. Sarah took a deep breath and made her decision. I want to volunteer for the Golden Path Protocol. The statement sent a shock wave through her bridge crew. Commander Hayes stepped forward immediately. Captain, you can't. I can and I will, Sarah said firmly. This is too important to delegate. If humanity is going to take this step, it needs to be taken by someone who understands the full implications and accepts full responsibility. Seemed surprised. Captain, we had not expected such an immediate personal commitment. The training process would remove you from active duty for an extended period. Your superiors on Earth might not approve. Then I'll resign my commission, Sarah said without hesitation. This is bigger than any single career or command structure. If these abilities can really help guide the universe through its transformation, then someone needs to learn how to use them properly. Flowed closer to the screen, studying her with what might have been respect. You understand that this would change you fundamentally, that the person who emerges from the training might have different priorities, different loyalties, different ways of thinking about existence itself. Sarah met the shadow being's gaze steadily. I understand that the universe is changing whether I'm ready or not. At least this way, I have a chance to influence how it changes. His form brightened to almost blinding intensity. Captain, your decision resonates through probability fields in ways that suggest it is the correct choice. We accept your offer to volunteer for the Golden Path Protocol. When do we begin? Sarah asked. Immediately, replied. A ship will arrive within 6 hours to transport you to the research station. However, before you leave, you must select additional volunteers from your crew. The protocol works best with small groups who can support each other through the transformation process. Sarah looked around her bridge, seeing the hands already starting to rise. Doctor stepped forward first. I volunteer. This is the greatest scientific opportunity in human history. Commander Hayes was next. Someone needs to watch your back, Captain. Besides, if you're right about this being necessary for survival, then we need multiple people who understand the process. Lieutenant nodded firmly. My family lives on the outer colonies. If this cosmic instability spreads, they'll need protection. I want to learn how to provide it. One by one, her entire senior staff volunteered. Sarah felt a surge of pride and gratitude for the people who had chosen to follow her into the unknown. Very well, said, though something in the alien's manner suggested deep emotion. Captain and her volunteers, prepare yourselves for a journey that will redefine what it means to be human. The Golden Path Protocol begins now. As the transmission ended and the crew began making preparations for departure, Sarah stood alone for a moment at the observation deck, looking out at the golden clouds of Prime. In a few hours, she would leave behind everything familiar to learn abilities that might make her something more or less than human. But as she watched the impossible beauty of the alien world below, she knew she was making the right choice. The universe was about to change in ways no one could predict. At least now, humanity would have a voice in that change. 6 months had passed since Captain Sarah and her crew entered the Golden Path Protocol, but time itself seemed different now. The research station existed in a pocket of space where the laws of physics were more fluid, allowing for experiments that would be impossible anywhere else in the galaxy. Sarah barely recognized herself in the polished metal surface of the meditation chamber. The training had changed her in ways both subtle and profound. Her eyes held depths that seemed to reflect infinite possibilities, and when she moved, reality seemed to shimmer slightly around her, as if responding to her presence. The probability cascade is stabilizing, Doctor announced from his monitoring station. His own transformation was evident in the way he could now perceive quantum fluctuations directly, reading the fundamental forces of the universe like others might read a book. The new technique you developed is working, Sarah. Sarah nodded, though the satisfaction she felt was tempered by the weight of what they had learned. The Golden Path Protocol had succeeded beyond even the Aurelians' expectations. The human volunteers hadn't just learned to control their probability influence. They had discovered that consciousness itself was far more fundamental to reality than anyone had imagined. How are the test subjects responding? Commander Hayes asked. She had developed the ability to sense emotional resonance across quantum fields, making her an ideal coordinator for the delicate work of training others. Better than we hoped, Lieutenant replied, her voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before her transformation. She could now communicate directly with probability fields, translating human intentions into quantum fluctuations that reality could understand and respond to. The new volunteers are adapting quickly. We might actually be ready for the next phase ahead of schedule. Sarah walked to the observation deck, where waited in his familiar golden robes. The Aurelian had become more than an alien contact. He was now her partner in humanity's most ambitious project. The cosmic instabilities are accelerating, reported, his melodious voice carrying notes of concern. Our long-range sensors detect reality storms approaching the outer rim systems. We have perhaps 20 years before they reach the core worlds. Sarah studied the holographic display showing the spreading zones of cosmic chaos. Stars were beginning to behave like living things. Planets were shifting their orbits to form impossible geometric patterns, and space itself was developing currents and eddies like a vast ocean. "Are our people ready?" she asked. "As ready as anyone can be for something that has never happened before," replied. The combined human-Aurelian teams have established probability anchors around 43 star systems. When the reality storms arrive, these anchors should provide stability for evacuation and adaptation. Sarah felt the familiar tingle of possibility that now accompanied all her thoughts. The training had taught her to perceive the quantum substrate underlying all existence, and what she saw both amazed and terrified her. Reality was far more fragile than anyone had suspected, a complex web of probability and observation held together by the collective unconscious of every thinking being in the galaxy. "There's something else," she said quietly. "Something we discovered that the Aurelians didn't expect." Turned his attention fully to her, his form solidifying with interest. "What have you learned?" "The cosmic changes aren't random," Sarah explained. "They're not some natural disaster or cosmic accident. The universe is evolving toward something specific, a new state of existence where consciousness and reality are directly linked." "Explain." Sarah gestured, and her enhanced abilities allowed her to create a visual representation of her discoveries. Streams of probability flowed around them like golden rivers, showing the underlying structure of space-time. Every thinking species in the galaxy contributes to a kind of collective unconscious that shapes reality through observation and expectation. For billions of years, this influence was subtle and unconscious. But as more species developed advanced consciousness and technology, the effect became stronger. Studied the probability streams with growing understanding. "You're saying that evolution itself is becoming conscious." "Exactly. The universe is developing awareness of itself through the combined consciousness of all the beings within it. The reality storms, the cosmic instabilities, their growing pains. The universe is trying to reorganize itself to accommodate this new level of conscious interaction." The implications hung in the space between them like a revelation too large for words. Sarah continued, her voice carrying the weight of cosmic truth. "Humanity's gift isn't just that we influence probability. We're natural bridges between conscious intention and physical reality. We evolved to be the universe's way of understanding itself." Was silent for a long moment, his golden form flickering with what might have been awe or terror. "If this is true, then the Golden Path Protocol isn't just about surviving the changes. It's about guiding them." "Yes," Sarah said simply, "but we can't do it alone. Every species needs to participate, each contributing their unique perspective and abilities. The Aurelians provide wisdom and precision, humans provide adaptability and reality bridging, the crystalline hierarchs contribute harmonic resonance, and so on." "A cosmic symphony," whispered, "with consciousness as both the conductor and the music." Alarms suddenly echoed through the station, as reality around them flickered like a candle in the wind. Sarah felt the probability streams surge wildly, as space-time itself seemed to buckle under some tremendous force. "What's happening?" Commander Hayes called out as she rushed onto the observation deck. Doctor appeared at a run, his enhanced perceptions allowing him to see the approaching catastrophe. "Reality storm, but bigger than anything we've detected before. It's heading straight for the Sol system." Sarah's enhanced consciousness immediately reached out, trying to assess the threat. What she found made her blood run cold. This wasn't just another cosmic instability. It was a probability cascade that would unravel the fundamental laws of physics throughout Earth's solar system. "How long do we have?" she asked, already knowing the answer would be measured in hours rather than days. 6 hours until the storm reaches Earth's outer planets," reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the crisis. "Maybe 8 hours before it hits Earth itself." Sarah felt the familiar surge of human stubbornness that had carried her species through every impossible challenge they had ever faced. "Then we stop it." Turned to her in amazement. "Captain, this storm contains more raw energy than our combined fleets could handle. Even with the probability anchors, we cannot." "We can't stop it with force," Sarah interrupted. But we don't need to stop it, we need to guide it. She turned to address her transformed crew and the assembled Aurelian researchers. Everyone listen. This is what we've been training for. The universe is trying to evolve, but it's doing it chaotically because it doesn't know how. We need to show it. Doctor looked up from his calculations with growing excitement. Sarah, if we could create a coordinated probability framework across multiple star systems, we could channel the storm's energy into controlled transformation instead of chaotic destruction. Hayes finished, her enhanced empathy allowing her to sense the rightness of the plan. Was already at the communications station. I'm contacting all the probability anchor stations if we synchronize our efforts. The enhanced humans and their alien partners could essentially conduct a cosmic symphony, said, his voice filled with wonder. Use the storm's own energy to create the stable reality framework the universe is trying to evolve toward. Sarah felt the familiar mixture of terror and excitement that accompanied every great human endeavor. It's never been attempted on this scale. We could transform the entire galaxy, or we could destroy everything. That's what makes us human, Doctor said with a grin. We try the impossible because someone has to. The next 6 hours became a blur of intense coordination as probability-enhanced humans and their alien partners across 43 star systems worked in perfect harmony. Sarah found herself at the center of a vast web of consciousness, feeling the thoughts and intentions of hundreds of beings working toward a single goal. As the reality storm approached, Sarah reached out with her enhanced abilities and touched its chaotic energy. What she found was not destruction seeking to unmake the universe, but creation struggling to be born. The storm was evolution itself, trying to reshape reality to accommodate a new kind of existence where consciousness and physics were permanently linked. Now, Sarah whispered, and across the galaxy, transformed humans and their alien partners acted as one. Instead of resisting the storm, they embraced it. Instead of trying to maintain the old reality, they helped birth the new one. Probability streams that had been chaotic became ordered, cosmic energies that had been destructive became creative, and the universe itself seemed to sigh with relief as it finally found the stable pattern it had been seeking. When the transformation was complete, Sarah found herself standing in a reality that was both familiar and completely new. Earth still orbited its yellow star, but now the space between worlds hummed with visible streams of possibility. Consciousness and matter danced together in perfect harmony, and every thinking being could feel their connection to the cosmic web of awareness that now spanned the galaxy. We did it, Doctor said in amazement, watching as flowers of pure probability bloomed in the vacuum of space around their station. We helped the universe grow up, Hayes added, her enhanced empathy now extending to planets and stars themselves. Was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Reports coming in from all systems, the transformation was successful. No loss of life, no destruction of infrastructure. Reality is stable but more responsive to conscious intention. Approached Sarah with something that might have been tears of joy in his ancient eyes. Captain, what your species has accomplished. It will be remembered until the end of time itself. Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of cosmic responsibility settle into something that felt more like cosmic partnership. We didn't do it alone. Humanity's gift is making the impossible happen, but only by working together could we make this particular impossibility real. She looked out at the transformed galaxy, where human colonies and alien civilizations now existed in a reality that responded to their hopes and dreams as much as to the laws of physics. It was dangerous and wonderful and completely unpredictable, exactly the kind of challenge that humanity was born to meet. So what happens now? Commander Hayes asked. Sarah grinned with the same expression that had carried humanity from caves to starships to cosmic gardeners. Now we figure out what else is impossible and make it happen too. The universe just got a lot bigger, and someone needs to explore it. As the crew began planning humanity's next adventure in a reality where consciousness itself had become a fundamental force, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them here. They had started as simple explorers seeking trade agreements and had ended up helping the universe evolve. It was exactly the kind of impossible story that made her proud to be human. The kingdom of gold in the heavens was no longer a distant alien empire. It had become the foundation for a new kind of existence where all conscious beings could shape reality through cooperation and imagination. And at the center of it all, humanity continued to do what they did best: Make the impossible happen, one breakthrough at a time.